Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the Fantasy Master Lothario, the mustachioed man of mystery, the spectacled savant of baseball. How's it going, Gray?
Good man. Good. It's a crazy time during the trade deadline. I saw a few people. I saw other fantasy baseball podcasts where we're talking about not recording until tomorrow so they could get all the trade deadline stuff. But we don't play like that. we don't change our schedule for no one. even if it makes absolute sense to change the schedule.
Hey, people get angry if it's not on time, Gray. You know, we gotta stay on the schedule.
Actually, as we record this, so we're recording this on Monday. So a trade just literally happened. I'm seeing Razzball trades Donkey Teeth to Yahoo for Andy Barnes' empty chair. Wow. We get back an empty chair that Andy Barnes once sat in. Wow.
Hey, I mean, the chair works
I don't know. Wait,
365 days a year.
Hold on, beat on. Immediate reactions, please. Let's hear them. What do you think?
The chair works 365 days a year. That's what I have to say. It doesn't go on wilderness retreats.
Personally, I would like to sit down occasionally. You know, I feel like this is a good trade. I mean, we're not going to really know for a couple months to see how comfortable this chair is. but we know what we were getting from Donkey Teeth, right? I mean,
can the chair make dick jokes? This is the biggest key of the whole thing.
We will find out. I'll be interested in seeing, like, because a lot of times, people have to wrap up in their previous location. It's like, you got to sell the house. You got to put stuff up for auction. It'll see how long it takes for the chair to come to us. So I'm hoping we have the chair by this weekend. Because I would like to sit down. So we'll see. I don't know.
Wow. All right. So
breaking news.
As the breaking news happens, Gray, and things are just crazy in the world of baseball and fantasy baseball. Apparently, people getting moved. Who knows if I even finish this podcast? Gray may just like call for the reliever at the end of the game. I need send out the other righty. We got to finish this out stronger. It's slipping.
Wow, I'm hearing now. I'm getting actually. We're sending B-Don to get a. I'm getting a new mic sent. And B-Don's getting sent to Best Buy. Good luck, man. Good luck with your new job. Oh man, it's just gonna be me and different household items
with the old mic on that.
It's just Gray and an empty chair and a new mic.
We just need anime Gray to talk to real Gray. That's what we really need.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so yeah, it's good to be here the day before the trading deadline. Most people would wait for the trading deadline, but not Razzball. No, not us.
Maybe if you really feel like it, Gray, we could always jump on and talk about the 1.5 trades that happen from now till then.
What's actually gonna happen? It's gonna be us talking next week, and we're gonna be like, so Josh Hader was traded right after we recorded last week. And everyone's already said their immediate responses for that trade, but now we're going to talk about it 6 days later.
The Padres actually traded their entire lineup somehow, 1 through 9, every starter that they own.
If I were the Padres, I would trade everyone except for Tatis, and you probably can't move. I don't know. I would, if I were them, honestly, jokes aside, I would move Musgrove, Snell, Soto, and Hader. I would move everyone. Honestly, I would blow up that team. But I am not AJ Preller. Anyway, so let's talk about actual trades. B-Don, do you want
Yeah,
to give it to us?
we can go ahead and jump into them, I suppose. So let's start at the top with the Rangers. They're getting Max Scherzer. The Mets are getting Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna Jr.'s little brother, who's having a pretty solid season down in the minors. He's this is the headliner. This is probably the biggest trade that's happened so far and the biggest prospect that's moved. It used to be, a trade would happen and, three top prospects would get moved for an upper average bat. And nowadays, it's like, unless it's an elite player, top prospects are very rarely involved in these anymore.
Yeah, no, totally.
Where are you at with this one?
Yeah, no, I was just looking up Acuna. It's actually, so we're finding out there was the limited pickoff moves, the pitch clock, and there was another the end of the shift, and then a fourth rule that no one knew about, that every NL East team had to have an Acuna. Interesting. Someone, I forget where, I think it was in the comments at Razzball. I'm sorry if I'm blanking on where I read it, but someone said hopefully this Acuna isn't the Dom DiMaggio of Acuna. I had a good a good hearty laugh at the fact that the Scherzer trade was being held up for Scherzer's approval. Yeah, no, man, no. Max Scherzer is not going to approve a trade away from the Mets. No, no way. Can you even imagine, man? Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, I think I'll accept a trade away from the Mets. I think I'll do that. Yeah. I don't know. Do I have to think about it? We are obligated due to your contract to check in with you, Scherzer, and we have to ask you: are you willing to be yes? Yes, yes. Were you going to ask me if I can be traded? Because that's a yes. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so Max Scherzer, I think. I think we're actually starting to see the decline of Max Scherzer. Unfortunately, his velocity has been down. His strikeouts are down, and not like in a major way. Like, I don't want to make this out to be like he's barely usable now. He is probably, I would say, for the last 13 years plus, he's been a number one. He's been an ace. I'm not necessarily breaking news there, but now I would say he's probably a number two. Like, he looks much closer to what we expect from Yu Darvish, for instance, where you're not getting the ace numbers from Scherzer anymore. I think it's probably fair to say they're never coming back either. I don't think those numbers are ever going to revert. Like, right now, his xFIP is the worst it's ever been in his career, by way worse than last year even. I think it's a lot to do with his command. His command has been really pretty bad, and that's led to more homers. So more homers allowed, and a little bit lesser on the velocity range, a little bit less on the command is down. So that means the strikeouts are also been down. And he's 39 years old. So it's not like a shocking development to say a guy has lost just a little bit of edge. I still think he's great. I still would say, like I said, I still think he's a number two. So you're looking at, like I said, Darvish is a potential number two, a guy like Musgrove, Logan Webb, guys that, number twos that you're obvious, number twos should be obvious to people who are listening. So I think Scherzer's in that range now, the 20 to 25 to 30 starter off the board range. So you're looking at a top 25 starter versus what he's been for the longest time. He's been a top 10 starter. So he's lost like a little bit, but not a ton. I think, I think with in Texas, unfortunately, Texas plays really homer happy. It's a heavy homer stadium. It's pitchers who are prone to allowing homers can really run into trouble in Texas. So I do think Scherzer could run into trouble there. Like I think it's possible. Like I wouldn't rule out like Scherzer being a 4+ ERA guy, even though he's going to a more competitive team, a team that should allow him to get more run support, should allow him to get more wins potentially. It should, the playoff environment, in theory, should help a guy like Scherzer just to, get his competitive juices flowing. So I think it's probably, in the end, it's probably going to be a push. Like I would say Max Scherzer is likely anywhere from a 3.6 ERA guy to a 4.2 ERA. Which, depending on luck, that could easily like he could roll through 2 months and be just fantastic. Like that's possible. I would say, like you said, this is probably the biggest trade as of right now. I would say if you're in an AL only league, spend all your money on Max Scherzer. Like I would expect him, like we said earlier, we're doing this before the end of the deadline, so I don't know who's coming over. But as of right now, Max Scherzer is the biggest name to move to the AL, and he's also the biggest name to move. I would say he's probably anywhere from a top 25 starter to top 15 starter, depending on luck in with his ERA. But the K's are solid. The command's a little wonky. The wins should be there. So yeah, I mean, I like the move for Scherzer. It's fine. It's probably a neutral move, and in the end of the when all things are said and done, it's probably a neutral move because he's going to get more wins, and even though Arlington could hurt him a little bit on as far as homers go, he should be fine.
Yeah, I think so. And it's pretty much it's Max Scherzer. So you know what you're getting to some extent. As you mentioned, the K's are down this year, the walks are up a little bit, and that's again, he's 38 years old, 39 years old. It's not unexpected that he might drop a little bit, but yes, he's still perfectly fine. You're still starting him. I don't know if there's a lot to do in regards to the ballpark, as you mentioned, plays a little bit home run heavier, but he gets away from the Mets and the Mets training staff, and that could be a positive thing just in and of itself. Moving on to the Angels, they acquired Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez from the White Sox. They are both unrestricted free agents after this year. Giolito has 126 innings. He has a 3.85 ERA, a 1.23 WHIP. He's been 6-7, a just under 26% K rate, 8% walk rate. The White Sox are getting Edgar Quero and Kai Bush. We're not really going to touch on the other pieces. They don't really affect our game for this year. We're, as a listener, we're really redraft focused primarily. What are you doing with Giolito and Reynaldo? There's nothing really to do with Reynaldo other than, I don't think his place really changes in a hierarchy. He's like second or third in line for saves on his team. He's definitely not in the lead for it regardless. So I think it's kind of equal there. What about Giolito?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And Reynaldo Lopez is probably the setup man to Estevez now, I would guess. So, if anything happens to Estevez, then Reynaldo is an immediate ad, probably in all leagues. Okay, so yeah, Giolito actually, unlike Scherzer, because Giolito he had a little bit of a rocky 2022, and he's been kind of on the downswing since his great 2021. So I think Giolito actually is better than maybe people think as of right now. I think his his Ks are fairly solid. they haven't really bounced back to the 2021 10.1 K per nine, but they've held steady around 9.5 K per nine, and his command has gotten a little bit better from last year, where it was really wonky. And I think just Anaheim isn't necessarily the best place. Also Giolito's velocity has bounced back a little bit from last year. So yeah, I think Anaheim isn't necessarily the greatest place for a pitcher. It's not as good as it used to be. It used to be a very pitcher heavy team. Stadium. It was much more of a pitcher's park, like I want to say 10 years ago. For whatever reason, I forget. I think it was the fences and also the humidor might have something to do with it. The league-wide use of the humidors. Anyway, Giolito, I think, goes to a little bit of a worse park, just a little bit worse, but not dramatically enough to maybe like hurt him. He does have a homers allowed issue. But I think as we saw, even like in his first start with the Angels, he's a solid, like not necessarily going to be, he's not an ace. I would put him probably, I'd put him below Scherzer, even though I think perception of him is likely, much lower. I don't think he's much lower than Scherzer in reality, but he is a little bit lower. I think he's probably in the 35 to 40, top 40 starter range. So, like a top 40 starter. So that's like bottom of a 2, top of a 3 in most shallower leagues. So I think Giolito's solid, not necessarily like, an ace, but he's good. I think he's probably much better for real world purposes for the Angels because they really needed someone behind Ohtani in the rotation. So I think for real baseball, he's a really solid get for the Angels, actually. For fantasy, it's probably a neutral move, more or less. I don't see it really changing his fantasy value all that much, other than, in theory, the Angels should be a little bit better for wins for him. But, the Angels are a little wonky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's pretty fair to say. And then I guess in regards to the Angels as well, this also means somebody may be leaving the rotation, or they may go to a 6-man. They've done that with Ohtani in the past just to keep him fresh. I don't know if they'll do that if they're really trying to make a run here, and also knowing the pending free agency, like there's maybe slight less concern about his arm if he's gonna leave. I don't know if he is or not. We'll figure that out in the offseason. But who would you expect to lose their spot in the rotation if we're looking at that?
For what? For right now?
Yeah, I mean Tyler Anderson,
I
Griffin
would say
Canning,
right.
Sandoval.
I mean, I would, it's like for fantasy, I'd want Tyler Anderson out, but in reality, I think it's probably Canning and Detmers. I could see them getting skipped, because like they're just younger and their innings on their arms are just less so. Tyler Anderson, probably he's an innings eater, so he's probably not going anywhere. Ohtani, if he's healthy, if his blister's fine on his hand, then he's obviously in the rotation. And I don't think Sandoval's going anywhere. So it's probably between Detmers and Canning if they were. But, I think because of Ohtani and just like they don't want to, push him, I think they probably stayed with a 6-man rotation more or less, right?
I think they definitely could, or maybe they just plan on some kind of, you know, Detmers and somebody else, Detmers and Canning kind of 1-2. They each go 3.5 innings, 4 innings max, and maybe 3 innings each, and just kind of give you a starter's workload. Neither have really proven they're good enough to stay in through a third or fourth run through of a rotation. But maybe they can just kind of split some time in that role, or maybe, like you said, maybe it's just a 6-man. I guess the only thing with that is at that point, I feel like you want to get Giolito and Ohtani the starts as much as you can. Although I will say Giolito's there's like a few starts where he just absolutely killed you. And then other than that, he's been, fine. And that's been a lot of starters this year. So
without even looking at his game log, Giolito strikes me as a guy, like, I don't know this for a fact. I could technically just look it up right now.
Throwing this out in the ether.
But rather than looking it up, I don't feel like he's ever really put together a string of like excellent starts. Like, he's had some blow-ups, and then he's had some like, okay, like, quality starts, but like quality as in like 7 innings, 3 earned runs. Like, right? I don't think he's
every time he gets going, he gives you like a 6 and 4, which is fine, but it's not good. You're like, oh, you giving up like 2, 1, and 1 the last 3. I was like, he's turning, he's making the right adjustments, and then you give up like 6 and 4 to Detroit. Like that's not a good look. The one that I'm talking about that really, like, if you look at his second half, you're gonna be like, oh my god, his second half ERA, what happened? He went 3 2/3 at the Mets of all places and gave up 8 earned. Like, you were starting him in that. There's no reason not to start him in that. Coming off the All-Star break, you're like, okay, he's gonna be fresh. He's gonna maybe get a tick of that, like a half a tick of velocity back. Coming off the All-Star break, didn't happen. It was a terrible velocity game, I believe, for him, and he gives up 8 earned. Goes 6 shutout at Minnesota. The next one, like, it's just kind of you're right. It's just that you're never really comfortable with him, but you're probably starting him in territory. Also talking about the Angels, they landed a couple of bats as well, getting Randal Grichuk and CJ Cron from Colorado, who get Jake Matter and Mason Albright. Is that a third cousin of yours, Gray?
Madden. I think his name is Madden Albright.
Is it?
Yeah, because it was like, because I think I made a joke about that. Madden Albright.
No, it's like Jake Madden and Mason Albright.
Jake Madden. Yeah. Madden and Albright. Madden Albright. Yeah, Madeline Albright.
All right, there it is.
Yeah, the Rockies traded for Madeline Albright. Rest in peace, my sweet, sweet aunt. Go ahead. Phil, go ahead and say the rest of the thing.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I was just going to talk that, in Colorado, what does this mean? I mean, obviously Chris Bryant went to the IL. That's really shocking that Chris Bryant's heading into the IL. But CJ Cron comes in. Sorry. CJ Cron is leaving. All right, I'm just going to restart that whole thing because that was all backwards. The Angels are getting CJ Cron. You figure he's going to slot in at first base for them every day. And then Grichuk, I don't know if he's going to play every day or not. I think that kind of depends on what they're doing with the rest of their outfield. Moniak's been pretty good in center field. They have, like 2 or 3 guys who can play left field. But I assume Grichuk's going to play center or left pretty much every day.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really, they have they have a guy called Trey Cabbage, which is like a nickname for a guy who stocks the shelves at Trader Joe's. Yo, can you get Trey Cabbage down here? We got lettuce rotting. The lettuce is rotting all over this tray. Come on, get Trey Cabbage over here. I don't think the Angels have anyone else. As of the recording of this, at least, Grichuk looks like a starter for them. Yeah, like by the way, I can hear in the voice in the back of my head is Joe Adele saying, "Hey man, I'm still here. Does anyone care?"
Unfortunately, he's on the IL. The one time they would have actually played him on the IL with Brandon Drury and everybody else that they've lost.
Yeah, no, I know he's injured. Yeah, Grichuk
one time.
So Grichuk looks to me like a starter for the Angels, which is kind of funny because he wasn't really a starter for the Rockies. So he went from a team out of playoff contention to a team that's quote unquote in playoff contention, even though I think they're like 11 games out. Angels,
unquote.
the Angels are honestly a hilarious team. They're like, you know what? If we say it, it's true. Like, no, guys, you're not actually in playoff contention. You're so far out of it. It's like, yeah, but you know what? If we say we're buyers, then we're in the playoffs. No, that's not how it works. Anyway, so Grichuk looks like he is a whatchamacallit, he is a starter, and Cron, because of the Taylor Ward injury, it looks like Cron is also a starter for the Angels. Now, I'll say this: like, most people are like, well, leaving Coors is going to hurt anyone, which is true to a certain extent, but it's not fair to look at a guy's splits and say, like, okay, he was this good in Colorado and he was this bad on the road. So this bad on the road is how bad he's going to be in Anaheim. That's not accurate. That's not how it works. It's like, because the guy is in Colorado, he gets bad. He's bad on the road because of the fact that he's in Colorado for like half of the season. So it's not really accurate to look at his road splits and be like, that's what he's going to do now away from Colorado. Like, Cron and Grichuk, to a certain extent, are very similar. They're, power only guys. Recently, they've hit for a little bit of better average, but not really. And I think, if anything, you can look at Colorado and say the Babbitt bump in Colorado is going to help a guy's average. So, I think Grichuk and Cron are really very similar in that, like, they're like 25 homer guys in or out of Coors. They're more or less 250 to 260 hitters. That's with neutral luck, so they could potentially hit 280 or hit 220. But I don't really think, outside of Cron, I would say is like in that 15 to 20 top first baseman range. So, CJ Cron or Jose Abreu, it's kind of a toss-up for me. I probably would go Abreu because I like the Astros lineup a little bit more, but it's really, it's pretty close. It's probably a toss-up. And then Grichuk is like a top 50 to 60 outfielder. So he's barely in like a 12-team mixed league. He's a fifth outfielder, depending on, like, if he gets hot, like he does tend to get hot and he goes off and he has like a good week or two. But in a 12-team mixed league, he's like a fifth outfielder / utility guy that could easily, be dropped in some leagues, depending on it, like if he's cold. Right now, he was hitting well before the trade. So yeah, they're fine. I don't really think they're, I think the common perception will be that they've gotten much worse leaving Colorado, but I think in reality, they're okay. They're not great, but they're not going to be terrible either. So, kind of mediocre.
Yeah, and to your point, most players hit better at home. You're more comfortable. You're in your home park. You're sleeping in your bed. Like most players are better at home. And then there's also the part of when you play in Colorado, or at least what players have said is, like, it's not just the fact that you play in Colorado and it's easier there. It's also the spin is different in Colorado. So then when you go on the road, you also have to adjust the scene, real spin back on the ball. So I think there's kind of a mitigating factor here where it's somewhere in the middle of, it's not a home split, not a away split, somewhere in the middle. Colorado is a great park to hit in regardless. So that hurts a little bit, certainly on the average side. The power is not as prevalent as it used to be, with kind of the equal humidor effect going in across the league, but still pretty friendly on the home run side. And you're right, Grichuk has been hot. Over the last month or so, he's hitting 375. He's got 6 home runs and a stolen base. So as long as he's getting playing time, I think you can stick him in your lineup and be pretty happy that he's there for now. It seems like he's going to slot somewhere between, I would guess 4 and 6 in the lineup most days. And so you got a guy in the middle of that lineup. Mike Trout is back running again. Brandon Drury's in his rehab assignment. Joe Adele. I'm not sure what his timetable is. So there's a few guys that are coming back at some point, and he could get platooned or moved to the bench. But for now, while he's healthy, I agree. You can go ahead and grab him and start him. Moving over to Toronto, Jordan Romano goes to IL, which prompts the Blue Jays to go ahead and trade for Jordan Hicks from St. Louis, who's getting Adam Kloffenstein and Sim Robers. Jordan Hicks steps in. I mean, you think he's probably the front runner for the closer's job until Romano comes back, and then he moves back into a setup role.
Yeah. I think they, they did like in Indiana Jones when he moves the statue and he puts a sandbag down. The Blue Jays did that with Jordans.
Just swap them out. Nobody will notice.
They just swapped out. Yeah, they're just like, well, we need another Jordan, and Jordan Montgomery's a starter. So, yeah, I think I think Jordan Hicks actually probably takes a little bit of a hit on his value because I mean he's fine for now, but Jordan Romano, it sounds like his injury didn't sound like it was that bad. So when he returns, Romano's going to get the closer job again, and then Hicks is going to move down to the setup role. So, I think Jordan Hicks for right now, his value and his role hasn't really changed. He's just gone to a new team. So he's definitely the closer for the Jays, I think, for right now. But once Romano returns, yeah, Hicks going to lose the job, and then that's going to be, the end of his value, really. And, the one saving grace is back injuries tend to be a little bit hard to predict. So, I mean, there is a chance, like, Romano goes on a rehab and has a setback, and Hicks could have the job for, like, maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe the rest of the season, depending on how Romano's back, treats him. So, I mean, it's not all hope is lost for Jordan Hicks owners, but it's probably a little bit of a hit depending on how Romano's health goes.
Yeah, enjoy it while he has the job. Again, don't know how long that is, but just enjoy it for that time, and then you're gonna have to probably find yourself another closer, as happens at the trade deadline every year. Unfortunately, backs are tricky, so maybe he still has some value in that they don't go back-to-back days with Romano, at least upon return. So, like you said, there's potential for value even if Romano comes back. As that happens, we probably should have talked about this when we were talking about Scherzer, but the Rangers also traded with St. Louis and got Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton. We'll go ahead and talk about all the Jordans here and just get that out. I mean, Jordan Montgomery has been doing his Jordan Montgomery thing. He has a 3.42 ERA, 1.25 WHIP, 21% K rate, just under 7% walk rate. This is pretty much what Jordan Montgomery looks like, unless it's dead ball like it was last year. So, I mean, that's what I feel like the Rangers are getting, and it's almost a neutral kind of move, other than maybe the home runs, which I think you mentioned when we were on Scherzer.
Right. Yeah, but I think with Jordan Montgomery, unlike Scherzer, hasn't really ever had a homer allowed problem. Montgomery's been pretty good about keeping the ball in the park. So, yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Montgomery is probably a little bit underrated, honestly, for fantasy. Like I see in the comments, like Jordan Montgomery will show up with like some real schmohawks, and people will be like, could you rank these guys? And it's like, Jordan Montgomery's better. He's better than Johan Oviedo on the Pirates or something. It's like, what are you guys doing, man? Like, Jordan Montgomery's not bad. He's just a little bit constipating because like he doesn't get like a ton of strikeouts. So he's like closer to, a 3 or a 4 fantasy starter, but in a way that's pretty like safe. I think Jordan Montgomery is like a guy where if you're struggling for ratios, the problem is like right now, And from now until the end of the year, it's kind of hard to really move ratios in roto leagues. In head to head, obviously it restarts every week, but in a roto league, your ratios are if they're in a bad place, I don't know what you're doing. But Jordan Montgomery is a good ratio guy. Like he's been, over the course of his career, even almost 700 innings, he has a 3.77 ERA. I mean, it's not like a low 3 ERA, but he's been fairly, he's been in the 3.5 range more or less for the last 2 years. He seems fine. Like he's not. I don't think he's very. You know, I don't think he's like incredibly like sexy. Obviously, like he's not gonna like blow you away. Like he's not gonna have. The best you can hope for really is like a Jordan Montgomery like complete game shutout with like 4 Ks or something. Like it's just the kind of pitcher he is. Like he's not going to go out and like strike out 13 guys in 7 innings. Like he's not that guy, but he can be very valuable in certain circumstances. And in most leagues, outside of like maybe a shallow 10-team league, but even there, I feel like he's probably a fifth starter in a 10-team league. And in a 12-team league, he's probably, like I said, like a 3 to 4 starter. And in a 15-team mixed league, I put him in I have him on certain teams and I just put him in the lineup and I don't even think about it. Like I just, he's like a set it and forget it guy. It's like, yeah, I mean, the matchup may not be great this week, but hopefully he throws like 6 innings and only gives up like 3 runs or something. So yeah, I don't mind Jordan Montgomery for ratios. And also I think this move is totally fine for him. He'll at least potentially get more wins, in theory.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, like Jordan Montgomery and the not great matchup, or like, do I dare throw Lance Lynn freaking again, or something?
Or even like, people will be like Jordan Montgomery or like Taj Bradley. And I think like in a keeper league, Taj Bradley is super interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, but he's a mess this year and he's super risky, where Jordan Montgomery doesn't have that risk at all.
Yeah, and I think to your point about his undervalue, I know he had those years in New York where he wasn't a starter, he wasn't a reliever, or like when he was a starter, they'd only give him a handful of starts a season. But since he's been a starter, he's been pretty much the same guy across the board. Again, minus a little bit of whip last year with kind of the dead ball. That was pretty nice to have from him. But outside of that, he is who he is. And like if you said Marcus Stroman and Jordan Montgomery, I feel like everybody'd be like, oh, Marcus Stroman, 100%. But then you go look at the numbers and it's like, well, all Marcus Stroman has done this year is get 4 more wins and 2 less losses. And across the board, other than that, I think Jordan Montgomery has better numbers than him. So like it's just a perception thing on Jordan Montgomery to some extent. Moving over to the Dodgers, who have been busy as well. They've had a few moves
The
here.
Dodgers have been like the guy, or no, the girl, I guess. Yeah, that's a sexist to say guy. Excuse me. The Dodgers have been the girl who's like, I can fix them. That's the trading mantra. Okay, go ahead. Tell us who the Dodgers got beat on, because
Yes.
they're really fun guys.
So we'll start with Amed Rosario, who has 3 home runs this year, 9 stolen bases. He's hitting 269, just over 300 on BP at 309. Now, granted, the guy they give up to the Guardians for him, not exactly a great reclamation project this year either. Noah Syndergaard goes back with 55 innings of 7.16 ERA ball, 1.45 whip with a 15% K rate. So it's not as though they gave up a lot, but they're adding Amed Rosario and just cutting weight with Syndergaard leaving, I guess. I mean, what is there? Do you think Rosario plays every day, or is this strictly just a like defensive replacement type of move?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think Rosario. I mean, in my mind, I would play him over Miguel Rojas, but Do the Dodgers do that? Because Rojas does have good defense, to give him that at least. Rojas is super boring. I mean, if you think Amed Rosario is boring, wait till you get a load of Miguel Rojas. So for fantasy, I wish Rosario would play over Rojas, but does he? I don't know. I mean, Rojas is good for defense, like I said. So I don't know. This was a bizarre move for the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers made a few bizarre moves, which we're going to get to. But I don't really know if Amed Rosario plays every day. And in all fairness, he probably hasn't earned the right to play every day because he's been so awful this year. So, yeah, I mean, he gets on base. Like, he doesn't strike out a ton. So, I mean, I guess there's that. In an NL only league, like, there's so few guys. I mean, I guess we'll say about that after you've mentioned all the guys who have moved to the Dodgers, because those are like the only NL only guys that I was really able to bid on this week, which was just awful. I mean, the guys the Dodgers went and got. I mean, talk about just like absolute like pain in the asses. If it's not, I mean, it's like Lance Lynn. At least he didn't like hurt Taylor Ward and knock him out for the season, like Alek Manoah. So I guess there's that. Anyway, talk about the rest of the guys the Dodgers got.
Okay, so in addition to that big move, they traded with Boston and got Kike Hernandez back. The beloved Kike Hernandez in Dodgerland, and by beloved I mean the Dodgers love him and nobody else in LA. And then they also, as you mentioned, got Lance Lynn, and then also with Lance Lynn got Joe Kelly from the White Sox.
That's so true about Kike. That is so funny. That is really accurate. It's like that guy who you have like one of your friends has a friend, and your friend's friend is like awful, and you're like, what does he see in him? That's like the Dodgers with Kike Hernandez. It's like, why do you guys like this guy so much? Like, what do you like? I get it. He's like fun in the clubhouse. Like, is that what's going on? Because I'm not seeing it. I don't see it really, but okay. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, not to interrupt.
Oh no, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, they really like 6 home runs, 220. That's fun in the clubhouse with a team that has World Series aspirations every year, and
At
that's
least, you know what though. At least Kike is fun in the clubhouse, unlike Lance Lynn, who just seems like a tool.
But like, isn't like Chris Taylor supposed to be that guy? Like Max Muncy's supposed to be that guy. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, like everybody on their team is supposed to be that guy. Did they really need Kike Hernandez to wrap it all up in a bow?
I know. It's like, how fun can one clubhouse be? We get it, guys. You're fun. Stop. You don't have to be this fun.
Maybe just win the title and then have fun afterwards. That works too, guys. You don't have to
win a non Mickey Mouse title.
And Lance
Lance Lynn. Yeah, go ahead.
Lance. He's had just
Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly, who's also Kelly. I mean he's not fantasy he's not worth it to talk about for fantasy, but he's also a nightmare. They have so many nightmares on this team. Like the Dodgers just went out and got like guys who you're like, oh man, do I really want him in a tough situation? It's like bottom of the ninth. Joe Kelly is not who you're. I mean, not that he would ever be in the bottom of the ninth, but Joe Kelly's just so bad. Anyway, I guess we should talk about Lance Lynn. I mean, I don't trust Lance Lynn really, like at all this season. I don't think potentially. He could like his numbers say he should be better. Like I'll give him that. Like his ERA does seem inflated, like his cholesterol, but I mean, his ERA does seem like it's not in proportion with like his peripherals. Like it looks like he should be better. I'll say that for Lance Lynn. At no point has he been better though. Like other than that, one start, the one start where I benched him all year when he had like 16 Ks. That was like the only start I benched him all year. Yeah, I mean, he looks like he should get strikeouts now. Going back to my NL only thing, like I bid on Lance Lynn, Kike Hernandez, Amed Rosario, and it was like and a few other guys, but anyway, those were the main guys. And whatchamacallit, the Giants call up, who we haven't talked about yet. But anyway, I bid on those guys, and I was like, do I want to win any of these bids? I don't know. I honestly wasn't sure if I really like so far as of like, Monday at noon Eastern, there hasn't been really a great guy who's gone over to the NL. So, I mean, I bid on Amed Rosario and I won him in my NL only league, and I was like, I guess whatever. I don't care. It's between him and like Alfonso Rivias, the Padres first baseman. So it's just a utility spot anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I guess hopefully Amed Rosario does something. But in conclusion, I don't trust any of these guys just because they moved to the Dodgers. Dodger Stadium is a better park for hitting. Lance Lynn could get absolutely crushed in Dodger Stadium. Like, I don't know what the Dodgers schedule is like, but I think they go to like Coors. Like, Lance Lynn is not in a better division. Like, this is really bad for Lance Lynn. It's not going to get better, I don't think, for him. But like I said, his peripherals say he should be better. So I guess there's the potential there. And Amed Rosario, like we've been saying, I don't think he's really an everyday guy for the Dodgers. He'll probably platoon in some way. He might get like 4 starts a week. Like, it may not be terrible for NL only, but for mixed leagues, I think he's still a wait and see.
Yeah, they made a trade for a bunch of trades, plural, a bunch of players that I'm not sure are worthy of starting for them. And I don't know if they are going to start for them all the time. I mean, I assume Lance Lynn's going in the rotation just because. But yeah, I'd agree with your evaluations in regards to the playing time with Rosario and Hernandez. I don't think either of them are worth picking up. I mean, I don't know if Kike Hernandez plays more than like 2 or 3 times a week. So that's pretty much what you're looking at there. And then, I mean, problem with Lance Lynn this year has been home runs. He's going to what has been the second worst park for home runs over the last 3 years. The numbers this year on him are not good, Gray. He's giving up a 40.5% fly ball rate. 20.6% of those fly balls are home runs. That's not good, Gray. When you give up over 20% on 40% fly balls of home runs, that's
yeah.
That's
I mean,
bad.
that kind of is back to like, like I was saying, his ERA is inflated versus his like xFIP. But I mean, that only goes so far, because if a guy is giving up that many home runs, and it was kind of an issue for him last year too, it shows that guys are making really solid contact, and it's like that doesn't just fix itself just because his ERA, quote unquote, is supposed to be better, So yeah, I think Lance Lynn is cooked.
Yeah, I think so as well. And when you're looking at especially xFIP, it's one that's always been a little bit of a risky one to me because it basically neutralizes home runs, and that's a risky thing when you're talking about a home run prone guy, because then you're like, oh well, if he didn't give up home runs, he'd be a 4 ERA pitcher. And it's like, well, that's
Right.
easy to say
Yeah,
until that
yeah.
stops. That's not really
Right.
gonna happen though.
No, totally. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Yeah, it's difficult to say like a guy who gives up home runs should just not give up home runs. It's like, well, I'm sure he would stop giving up home runs if he could. I mean, that's the problem.
Exactly. All right. So the Marlins traded and got David Robertson. The Mets got Ronald Hernandez and Marco Vargas out of the deal. David Robertson, do you think he steps in immediately as the closer there?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, AJ Puck has been just kind of miserable. And I think Robertson's now the closer in Miami. And I would say Altavino and Brooks Raley are probably co-closers in New York for the Mets. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I will say I thought Tanner Scott had finally earned his spot to get his chance at saves, but he got injured, so that kind of like the the one time he would have gotten a shot to get his run as closer, he gets injured, he's out with a calf strain right now. It's kind of the Joe Dell situation in LA. Like just they finally had a chance to do it, and then here we are. And the one other time Scott had a chance at the job, he just absolutely was awful. So who knows how that would have turned out if they would have got it. Yes, grab David Robertson, but he's moving National League, so he's probably owned in pretty much every league already. The Twins are getting Dylan Floro, while the Marlins are getting Jorge Lopez. Are you doing anything with this at all, Gray?
That seems like a hey, this guy is not working for us. You want to try him? And then the other team's like, this guy doesn't work for us. So you want to try him? Like, okay, like let's just swap headaches. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a bizarre move, but I don't think it's really relevant for most fantasy leagues unless you're in a holds league and you.
Sorry, Gray, I lost you there for a second. I lost you when you were talking about the holds league.
Oh, I was just saying that if you're in a holds league, maybe you look at those guys, but you can probably do better in a holds league than those two guys.
Yeah, neither has been good. So I would expect this was just a swap to see who can fix who. And other than that, I can't really see what was going on here. Carlos Santana goes to the Brewers. Johnny Severian, I'm not sure, to the Pirates. Anyways, Carlos Santana steps in. I assume he's going to step in and play first base for them pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, I would guess so. I think Rowdy Telez maybe comes back and steals some at bats, maybe, but yeah, Carlos Santana's been fine too. He's probably better for a deeper league, but he has been hot, so I could see grab him in a shallower mixed league while he's hitting well. But in reality, he's probably more of a 15-team mixed league guy or deeper. But yeah, I mean, you know what you're getting from Carlos Santana. I think maybe Brewers helps him a little bit because PNC is not a great park, and American Family Values or whatever the Milwaukee Park's name is, the park formerly known as Miller. I think Carlos Santana goes to a little bit better park in Milwaukee, so that could help him a little bit in theory. But the park change is not going to help him enough to make him relevant in a shallower league if he's not hitting. Though right now, as I said, he is hitting.
Yeah, he's gone through just absolutely hot and cold streaks this season. If you've kind of been riding the corner infielder utility spot, free agency wire and say a deeper 12-team league, he's been on and off that wire all the time because he gets just ice cold and then all of a sudden he just starts hitting again. It's been a really weird season for Carlos Santana, but as you mentioned, he's going to a better park, better lineup. You got to think he's going to be playing most days, so fine if you want to kind of continue to ride when he's playing well, which as you mentioned he is right now. I will say the only kind of change I guess maybe this makes is towards the bottom of their lineup, which is the Andrew Monasterios, Bryce Terang, Abraham Toros. They're probably going to lose some playing time once everybody's healthy, once Tellez is back, once Brian Anderson comes back. But I don't think that those are really generally relevant guys for us. Maybe you're streaming them. I know Monasterio has had a couple of decent weeks here, so maybe you're streaming them, but that's about the only other change I can see here. Let's move over on to some call ups. There were a few this week. Marco Luciano was called up by the Giants. I feel like this is probably one of the last remaining fairly big, although it would have been a lot bigger a few years ago. He's lost a little bit of prospect hype. Even at 21, that's just kind of weird how the prospect game works that way, but that's how it happens. That being said, this year in AAA, and he was only there for it's for 6 games. He had 293 with 2 home runs. In 56 games in AA, he had 11 home runs, 6 stolen bases, and hit 228. Strikeouts have been the issue here, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a bizarre call up, really. I almost feel like I wouldn't be shocked if we're here next week and we find out that he was moved for like if between now when when we're recording this and tomorrow's actual trade deadline, I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants move him for another piece, like, and they just called him up to sort of showcase him, maybe. I don't know, because he feels like he's overwhelmed. Like he doesn't feel ready at all. Like it just seems like a bizarre call up. He's got power, but he's not able to hit above like AA yet. It's a pretty big problem. It's hard to go from like AA to the majors when you couldn't hit in AA. Like he had real contact issues in AA. So yeah, I don't know, man. It was a bizarre call up. I think outside of like NL only, I don't think he's really worth looking at yet, unless he's able to make better contact. But he looks lost in he looks as lost in the majors as you would have imagined a guy who had a 30% strikeout rate in AA.
Yeah, and AA is that big jump. You kind of high A rookie ball, like all that's fine. But AA is the first time you start seeing real major league pitching. The walk rate remains, so you got to think he's at least seeing the ball, but seeing the ball and hitting the ball when it starts to move a little bit more aggressively is two different things. So I'm with you. It felt a little bit premature in regards to a call up. Even his move to AAA seems maybe a little bit hurried. Maybe they just calling up because he's hitting 290 in a week, and they're just like, let's just see if he can continue to stay hot. That's pretty much what I was thinking. And adding him, I grabbed him in a couple of 15 teamers just to see if he comes up and just continues to hit despite the strikeout rate. But more than likely, you're going to see some struggles here early on from him. And as you mentioned, it wouldn't be surprised to see him sent down. I don't know if they move him or not. I feel like the Giants are in this weird spot with like everybody in their lineup is already like 35 years old. So you trade him away, you're really thinning out even what was already a pretty thin minor league system.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chris Bryant goes to the IL. Elehuris Montero is recalled by Colorado. Are you interested in Montero as more than an NL only play?
I mean, potentially if he gets hot, then, or if like the Rockies have a homestand, I could see potentially looking at him in mixed leagues. And also Michael Talagia, I'm probably saying it wrong, but with CJ Cron getting moved, like Montero and Talagia are sounds like a delicious pasta. Talagia. Hey, I think there could be something for both of them there if in like a mixed league, maybe a deeper mixed league, like a 15-team mixed league. But I could see something there for both of them if the Rockies are at home and you're looking to stream a bat. Like I don't mind them, potentially in Colorado. I wouldn't start either of them on the road except for in an NL only league. Like in a mixed league, I wouldn't start those guys on the road unless they get hot. And, then, you could start anyone if they're hot.
Yeah, I think I'd prioritize Montero over Tolia. If I'm just looking at it, it seems like Montero's just a little bit more equipped at this point to handle it. I think they're about equal on the power. Just I think the bat's a little bit more advanced on Montero right now, so that's where I would lean. But I think you're kind of just picking them up and speculating at this point. Like I said, playing the at Colorado matchups until otherwise advised. Oscar Gonzalez was recalled by.
Holy crap! I just realized that their birthdays are one day apart, the same year, Talaji and Montero, and they bat right next to each other in the lineup. That is so bizarre.
That is
They're,
pretty random.
it is like they're August 16th and August 17th. They're both about to turn 25 in a couple weeks. Wow, that's so weird. Okay, anyway, it's irrelevant. What am I? I just became Jason Stark for a second.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that little tidbit there, Gray. Oscar Gonzalez is called up this year in AAA. He's hitting 275, 316, 473. He has 11 home runs, 2 stolen bases. He had picked it up quite a bit recently in the minors. He started out a little slow and then has really kicked it into gear. This is a guy that plenty of people liked as a breakout player this year, myself included to some extent. I don't think I was fully on board the train, but I definitely had shares of him where I thought he was a value. He was hitting 300 with 8 home runs and 2 stolen bases since June in the minors. Are you looking at Oscar Gonzalez as a potential, outfielder 4 or 5 for you, or is this a
I was
bench play?
just I was just looking at the Guardians IL. Their IL is Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, Noah Syndergaard, and Cal Quantrill. Man, they got a whole rotation on the IL. Huh, that's interesting. Because the reason why I was looking at that, I was looking to see why Oscar Gonzalez got called up and like who he's replacing. Is he replacing David Fry? I like how did a spot open? Or did Miles Straw just finally wear out his welcome? Is that what happened? I I'm not sure. To be totally honest, I don't know why Gonzalez has a job now. I guess is what I was getting at. But he does. He does have a job, so that's good. I look at Gonzalez as kind of like a poor man's Josh Naylor. Like he looks like he has good contact. He should hit for a decent average, and he could hit for a little bit of power, but not a ton of power. So less power than Naylor, probably a tad bit less average than Naylor. Neither of them have speed, kind of irrelevant. But I mean, that's just a deal. I think Oscar Gonzalez, it looks like he has an everyday job, and he's probably worth it in like a 15-team mixed league or deeper. I would wait. I would hold off for now in like a 12-team mixed league.
Yeah, I think that's about the right area that you're looking at. Maybe in a deeper 12-team league, you're looking at Oscar Gonzalez as kind of a bench or like a speculative ad and see if he sticks, if he can kind of regain. I know he got really hot at one point last year. So if he's just kind of in that streak again, maybe you can get some use out of him. And yeah, I think both David Fry and Miles Straw kind of wore out their starters job here. So at least for a little while, it seems as though the Guardians are going to let Oscar Gonzalez start at least regularly for now. AJ Smith-Shawver, your boy, was recalled by the Braves. Soroka was sent down last week. We have Max Fried, who's rehabbing. He's been down for a while. Kyle Wright is throwing bullpen sessions. He's also been down for a while. Are you buying into Smith-Shawver again?
No. No, I'm not. I mean, I guess for a stream, yeah. I mean, in a shallow league, just about anyone is streamable, and I think maybe in a deeper league where everyone's rostered, then sure. But if I had my choice, I wouldn't go out and like look to grab him in a shallower league just because he's up. I would probably, I would be interested in seeing what the matchup was, I guess. Like I'm not going to totally just like kick him to the curb, but I'm not super excited in most mixed leagues for him.
Yeah, and the way that they used him was pretty much 5 innings, maybe 5 and a third, and then they're pulling him out. So when he's going not deep into games and generally giving up three earned. Like that was kind of his line, was like 5 and some change and 3 earned. You kind of need some strikeouts to come with that to be fantasy relevant. He really isn't bringing the strikeouts along with that. So we're really talking about, a borderline streamer in most leagues. I would agree with that. Um, on the IL front, I apologize real quick for picking Alex Kirilloff again. That's my bad. I dropped him back out there, picked him back up. Then he went on the IL with a right shoulder strain. So I apologize for that for everybody that was enjoying his comeback as a second half
I
strong
would actually,
returner.
I feel like it's worth writing a written apology versus the verbal. I appreciate the verbal apology, but I would like a written one as well.
All
Okay.
right, I'll put that in the news or in the notes for our podcast. A written apology to everybody for picking Alex Kirilloff back up. I'll just ignore him for the rest of his career. He will go on to be a Hall of Famer. It will be amazing for him and awful for me myself.
It's the sacrifices we make.
Let's go ahead and move over to the bullpens. We already talked about a couple in the changes in Toronto and Miami. Over in the White Sox, where they obviously moved from Kendall Graveman and Reynaldo Lopez, who do you think is taking over there, Gray?
Well, it looks like I would guess it's Santos's job. I would assume him. Maybe Bummer sees a look or two. Middleton potentially. I don't know. I mean, if I'm the White Sox, I would actually trade all those. If anyone wanted those guys, if I could get prospects for them, like between now and the deadline, I would trade any of them. So we'll see what happens. But as of right this second, I would probably go. I would grab Santos and forget the rest.
Yeah, that sounds good. Kimbrel was brought in during the eighth. He then got a save the following day, so I don't think there's anything to note here other than Kimbrel might be used more in a fireman's role here towards the end of the season. So there's potential there that somebody else gets saves, but I don't know. I don't know. Do you feel comfortable in taking a shot on anybody else in Philly's bullpen?
I think Soto's actually been okay
Mhm.
recently. So in one league, in an NL only league, I grabbed Soto, but that was just it's a deep league, so it doesn't really mean that much for most listeners. But yeah, I mean, I'd say it's probably as of right this second, depending on if the Phillies make any moves. But I would say it's Kimbrel's job at like 90% his job, and then maybe a committee for the other 10% with Soto potentially at the top of that committee.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Moving over to Arizona, Scott McHugh, who was actually having a pretty solid season, has struggled over, say, the last month or so. Since the end of June, he has a 12.19 ERA grade. He's been very bad there. It seems like they're finally going to go ahead and give him a break from the closer role. Are you interested in anybody there to potentially grab as his replacement?
Yeah, I guess Kevin Ginkel. Ginkel, Einhorn. I would say Kevin Ginkel as of right this second. If I'm the Diamondbacks, though, I would trade for a closer. I would see if I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's available, but if Paul Sewald is available from the Marlins, I would see if I can get him if I'm the Diamondbacks. But yeah, as of right this second, I guess Ginkel.
Yeah, don't want to go chafing any waterfalls, Gray.
Ha!
No. All right. Let's go ahead and finish up with some waiver wire people, and we'll get out of here.
Okay. So Ozuna has been crazy hot. He should be actually rostered in all leagues, but according to our 7-day player rater, he is available in a few leagues. So Marcell Ozuna, Brandon Lau has been also crazy hot. He should also probably be rostered in every league. Randal Grichuk, who moves, as we mentioned earlier, moves to the Angels, and he's a top 5 bat on our 7-day player rater as of right now. Carlos Santana, who also moved, is a top 5 bat. Gary Sanchez had a big Sunday, and I believe he goes to Coors this week, so that's interesting. Matt Wallner, who maybe we'll talk about more in depth next week if he stays hot. Twins guy who has big time power, and he's been hot. Louis Rengifo, Angels middle infielder who's actually been hitting leadoff recently. He's been really hot. And then Chas McCormick and Jake Berger. A few more names.
Nice. On the pitching side, Michael Lorenzen has been really good, and he gets Tampa Bay at home. And while Tampa Bay seemed real scary for a while, they haven't been quite the same in the second half. They're actually second to last in runs scored so far this second half, so not as scary a matchup as it seemed like. Steven Matz has also been really good since he got back in the rotation, and he gets Colorado at home this week. Brady Singer has had a couple of blowups, but outside of that has been really solid. He goes versus the Mets. Ryan Yarbrough has been great since returning. He goes at Philadelphia. JP France is doing his JP France thing versus Cleveland. Matt Manning has had a couple of rough outings, but he's at Pittsburgh. Not a matchup you're necessarily scared of, and not a park you're scared of. Your boy Johan Oviedo, who has been actually hit hard a few times, but he's versus Detroit if you're looking on the deeper end here. And Ross Stripling at Oakland. Stripling's been pretty fine since returning the rotation as well, and at Oakland is not scaring anybody. So there's a few matchups that you can look for. As always, if you have specific questions, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is the owner of the at Razball account. Find us in the comments on Razball.com or on YouTube.com/RazballFantasy. Happy Razball Day, Gray. Drafts are under the way. I have my first pick already today. And so the football season is starting. If you have questions on that, I'm also doing the podcast for that side, along with some other people who are doing some other podcasts for football for us as well. So there's all sorts of content coming out all over the place. Until next week, Gray.
Will you be podcasting with the chair that we received from Yahoo?
I am, because you traded Donkey Teeth away, and so I now have to come up with a good name for the chair so that I can introduce said chair as well when I'm introducing the podcast. But with chair, I actually expect our podcast to be somewhere under like an hour and 10 minutes, which would be a nice change.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
All right. See you, guys.
Thanks.